And we're live. It's Thursday. I'm Eddie Stone, and nice of you to join us. We're going to follow up a conversation that we began a couple of weeks ago, talking about how to be effective, particularly when you're working with a volunteer army. So as you're looking to develop a customer base, or even just influence your family on the merits of a healthy diet and healthy living, you got to think in terms of the example you're providing or the cause that you're establishing in them. Because if you're talking about a volunteer army, there's just a very limited number of ways that we can really influence them, because for the most part, instruction has a limited impact, right? So here, we want to think about things in terms of volunteer army. We want to think about the cause that we're speaking about, such as the cause of apparently the motorcycle that we have right outside our door. And we want to think about the example that we're establishing. And so within the realm of this, to me, one of the most important things, or one of the bigger difference makers that we can work with, is your story. And your story plays a critical role in sort of inviting people along. And so what are the key elements to a good story? Because for me, at least in my experience, it's one of those things I need to think about if I want to communicate with any sort of strategic thought in mind. So for me, here's the 5 elements that I think are really critical for you to consider. And the first one is to think about, when you're talking to someone, where I was when all this began. So for example, I'm going to go back to my story some 30 years ago. I had a physical that was mandated by an insurance policy, and was told by the physician once they got the results that my cholesterol was extremely elevated to be in my late 20s, that my sugar was too high for somebody in their late 20s, and my triglycerides were sort of off the chart. So the guy started speaking to me a bit about my diet and exercise. He even said, hey, there are prescription medications we can prescribe for you. So I quickly said, hey, listen, this is all about the diet that I have. And frankly, it was all about the fast food that I ate sort of on a constant basis. A heck of a lot of ultra processed foods, which we've spoken about multiple times, which is not a good place to be. So that's where I was, right? And what I saw was a physician sort of in my face about my situation. Hey, you don't want to let yourself develop into a statistic someday because you haven't taken care of yourself. And so that's the first 2 elements for me. I was there, not in a great place from a health standpoint. I saw a physician, sort of my wake-up call. And then here's what I did. I made changes, not radical changes, but I made changes over time to my diet. And here's where I'm at today. And in this case, we're advancing quite far. And I'm not sure that would always be the way we would approach this when we're talking about these types of things. But ultimately where I am today is I believe I'm probably more healthy from a cardiovascular profile. Sugars are in control, diet, exercise, sleep, management of stress. These are all things that sort of encompass in my health habits, not just to live my best life here at 56, but I'd like to think about what that'll be at 66 and 76. And, maybe I can give a good strong run towards being one of those centurions, right? Hit that 100 mark, right? So that's part of my story. And that last element was where I want to go. So stories, they have arcs and they have elements. It's where I was, what I saw, what I did, where I'm at now, and where I'm going. And the reason this is important is when you're trying to communicate with someone, when you're developing a team, or if you're developing a customer base, it isn't just the features of what you have to sell or what you're offering to someone. And in fact, I think for most people, the features really get lost on them, right? It's more about the personal nature of the dynamics and what you're doing. So for example, if I were developing an organization or a team, I might say, hey, about 6 months ago, I sat down with a financial planner and really looked at where Marie and I are headed from a retirement standpoint. And ultimately what I realized is if I really want to stop working at some point in the future, I'm going to have to learn to live on probably 30 to 40% of my current salary based upon my retirement profile. Now, I'm making all of this up in terms of just connecting and sharing a story, but that's the kind of thing where I might have done just that, or you might have done just that, or you might say to someone, hey, listen, I recently sort of realized as I looked at the ladder and my ability to progress in the company that I'm in, there are real limitations, not only with what I can do and my ability to control my day and sort of be in charge of myself, but also my earnings potential, right? Those are places where you were. And everyone has their own story. And you'll narrow it down in a way that really makes sense for people that you're talking to, but you got to start about just sort of examining and thinking, because if you're on this broadcast today and you're involved in developing a business or involved in developing a customer base or both, there's some element about where you were at some point and then what you saw. I saw a company offering clean supplements, but maybe most importantly, things that were convenient to use and address the fact that I don't eat enough fresh fruits and vegetables. And I know that my risk factors for cardiovascular disease, cancer, whatever happens to be, are higher because my diet's not where I want it to be, right? That's something where you were and you saw, right? And then so here's what I've done. I've made it a habit to start every day with this wonderful product called Super Green Juice. I'm actually a fan of juicing, but what I'm not a fan of is all the shopping, the chopping, and the cleanup to actually get my glass of celery juice. And then that's just only one element. And here's a chance for me to have 44 organic fresh fruits and vegetables, right? Those are all elements of here's where I was, here's what I saw, here's what I've done. And then you talk about results. This one's easy for me. You can say something like, hey, once I started to do this, not only did I find I was sleeping better, my energy levels were through the roof, and I've actually gone down 2 belt sizes. I'm now wearing a 33, and when all this started, I was wearing 35 size waisted pants. I'm down to where I was when I was a senior in high school, right? These are elements about your personal journey and what's happening here. And then the final part is you can say, here's where I'm going. And where you're going might be, I'm never looking back. Where I'm going is I'm going to adopt and make these habits permanent for me. Or if you're developing a team, I'm going to position myself where I no longer have a boss. In fact, I want to fire my boss. That's where I'm headed with this. And ultimately, I'm going to take this vehicle and I'm going to take this vehicle to the beach because I can see myself and Maria sitting on the porch, enjoying a good cup of coffee in the morning, watching the sunrise and the waves roll in, right? We all have stories, we all have visions and dreams. If you're trying to communicate with someone, if you're trying to invite someone to be a part of something you're a part of, whether that's products to help you be healthier or a business enterprise to give you the financial health and security that you've been longing for, or to improve the quality of your retirement so that you're not faced with living on 30 or 40% of your current income, then you need to be a good storyteller. And it's more simple than you think. So here's my charge as we sort of wrap things up today. 1, sit down and make a couple sentences about here's where I was, right? And you're talking to yourself, but I think it's critical to write a few things down and then you'll learn to say it out loud. Number 2, second element, here's what I saw. Something made an impression on you and caused you to make a change of some kind, however minor or however grand that happened to be. Here's what I did is number 3, right? A couple sentences about what you did. Number 4, here's where I am today. A couple sentences about where you're at today. And number 5 is, here's where I'm going in the future. This one to me is because it's where a team is joining you and you have a chance to build an organization of like-minded people, people that you share things in common with. So those are the 5 key elements of developing a story. If you do this, and then if you work hard to make it a story that you can share in under 60, maybe 90 seconds in the beginning, but you want to get down towards 60 seconds, you're going to find that your level of influence and ability to develop whatever your goals are much greater, because the key difference makers to me, I should say one of the key difference makers is your story. So with that, go out there and make this a fantastic day. Finish the week on a high note. It's a great time to be alive, and I look forward to reconnecting with you next week. Bye now.